Warm welcome to all of you today on the topic Relevance of Accounting Standards in IND AS regime. Before we go for today's session, the countdown has already started. The Samatha program is on June 7th and 8th. Kindly get registered. All the information is available on the website, so you can go through and encourage your friends, colleague friends to register for the same. I request today's speaker, CA Asha, who is here. I request the chairman to accompany the speaker to the dais and welcome her with the floral bouquet. Please give a good round of applause. Introduction, but the personality, qualified triple chartered accountant, company secretary, cost accountant, and CIMA strategic level. She has completed CA course in 2008. She has got a vast experience of 9 years in IFRS and US GAAP. She is currently working with KPMG. She has got 8 years of experience in academic trainings, and she has been facilitated with late Sundararaja Endowment Award by ICSI. And she is a super employee at the workplace. And she has worked with many corporate entities and assisted them like Caterpillar, Mahindra, Satyam, Automobile, BML, Emphasis, and Wipro, and many more. So let's welcome with such a brief introduction to today's session. If please give a big round of applause. Just Chairman to speak few words.
Good evening, friends. Just wanted to inform about our Samartha, the Karnataka State Level Conference being organized. This is scheduled on June 7th and 8th. Hope you are aware about that. I'm not sure whether you are registered or not. I request you to register because it is one of the landmark program of Bengal branch, and this time not only 8 branches but also 6 CP chapters within Karnataka are joining for this program, and subjects have been very carefully selected in the interest of the members, because what is happening around us versus what actually we are doing, there is a big gap. This is what we have felt. To bridge that gap, this kind of a conference is required, and the nature of subject that we have selected is apt for filling these kind of gaps. Therefore, I request each one of you to register for the program and make it a grand success. Once again, you know you have got a ICI Bengal mobile app. You can download the mobile app and register, and you can make a payment also online with the mobile app. And the registration is available on the website also. Registrations have been happening, and a few more seats are still left out. I wanted to say that all of you are regularly coming from the study circle programs and all of the programs should not miss, and finally come, Chairman, hey, give me one more extra seat. That kind of a situation should not arise. That's the reason requesting each one of you to register as early as possible. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thanks. And thanks for your time. So I generally speak on IND AS IFRS for quite a long time now. It's been, I think, 9 years I'm only speaking on IND AS IFRS convergences. But for a minute I thought that that's becoming really too much, and we are forgetting our existing accounting standards, which has to be followed by many more companies than certain large companies which has to follow IFRS. So with that, I think the idea of this session was to introduce or rather maybe recap on all the amendments which happen in accounting standards and what is expected to be amended, and also to kind of highlight more of what are the FRRB observations. This Financial Reporting Review Board which has come out with the 560 pages of report on many companies' financial statements which are prepared under accounting standards, not even under IND AS, because IND AS they have not even touched it, because in terms of number of companies, the IND AS companies are comparatively lesser. So the volume of the companies who are following accounting standards is very, very higher. So March 2nd, May 2018, last year, the FRRB released a report, and they are expected to release a report this year also. And FRRB had multiple comments on accounting standards. And then they came back with companies not following procedural matters well, disclosure requirements well, because somehow accounting is taken a backseat. They just think it to be a compliance requirement. As long as I think chartered accountant is signing off, they don't bother about accounting profit. It's more of, I think, the real profit which is impacting, but not the accounting profit. So FRRB has come up with a list of observations on certain companies which are not following accounts and requirements in a proper manner. So the idea is just to highlight so that when we visit our clients and someone who doesn't take accounting standards seriously, or the FRRB has, including a QRB, has come out with the statement that they would increase the number of companies and sample size for the purpose of scrutinizing the compliance of accounting standards. And if that happens, then mostly I think the way I think we see all this procedural requirement of GST and Companies Act are given a most importance, and including income tax returns which is given a most importance, we find that somehow accounting is not given that much importance from a compliance point of view. And that is where I think even if we go and talk to a client that look, there's an amendment in accounting standard, they somehow say that okay, if there's an amendment, why don't you take care? And you don't see that they're really eager to change the financial statements because the penalties are not being imposed heavily. So I think somewhere even accounting standard board is working towards making accounting standards also a compliance-driven subject, so that people do take it seriously. So that is an idea to go back to our pavilion, and maybe for the time being we should forget about IFRS, which we have kept on learning, and relearn our accounting standards, which we somehow somehow we did not revisit for a long time. And that's what I started doing now. So I'm following up very regularly ICI website to see what are the exposure drafts issued on the new accounting standards. Not even IND AS actually. There are multiple exposure drafts on the existing accounting standards, and the exposure drafts are expected to change the way this accounting standard is currently accounted. So I think I am covering, I think if you look at more from a coverage point of view, the applicability of accounting standards, the list of the standards and the amendments in that particular list we'll cover, and we'll cover differences between AS and IND AS in a very brief manner. I would not focus on IND AS in the session. The focus is more on accounting standards, and the focus is more on what is that as a practitioner we need to look at on 31st March 2019. When we are closing the books on 31st March 19 and signing off, what are the things that we need to keep in mind from an amendments perspective? And some of the EAC opinions. The last 1 year has been very, very active for a EAC board, I guess. I think you have seen the maximum number of EAC opinions in last 1 year. And surprisingly, on the simplest accounting matter, there is a EAC opinion. So, I mean, if you just go to ICI and click on EAC opinions, you will find 26 opinions in last like 4 or 5 months. So that shows us that there is a lot of traction on the field of accounting, which I think even EAC for that matter is turning out the opinions very fast actually. We see quite a lot of opinions on EAC, but I've just picked up some 4 or 5 opinions which could be useful for us to debate. And maybe when we go to the client place and we see that these are common mistakes that the clients do and there's an EAC opinion, it's easy to show them and say ICI has already got a precedence in the matter. So when we quickly touch upon FRRB observations. FRRB is Financial Reporting Review Board. FRRB can pick up any company's financial statements and review for compliance of accounting standard disclosures and presentation, including Schedule 3 presentation, CARO, SC's compliance. So they have an authority to review the financial statements end to end, and they come out with the, I'm sure some of you would have gone through peer review, but it's little more than a peer review, because peer review is one chartered accountant and another chartered accountant, which most of us would have gone through. But FRRB review will be where the board picks up the financial statements of a company and reviews what auditor has done. Okay. So to that extent, I think we'll just touch upon what are the observations. Now coming back to, I think though it's an IFRS season, we keep talking about IND AS. What we have realized is there are only those companies whose net worth is more than 250 crores, and the listed companies is supposed to follow IND AS. And NBFCs are supposed to follow IND AS as on 31st March 2019 as we stand this year. And banks, I think it's deferred without any condition. I think to 2022, maybe 2021 is what they are planning to follow IND AS. And insurance companies, 2022 they are trying to follow IND AS. So which means, as on today, accounting standards are relevant for all companies with less than 250 crores net worth. which is I think the most companies registered with ROC will be less than 250 crores net worth, and all the NBFCs with less than 250 crores net worth has to follow AS. All the banks has to follow still AS, except for RBI regulations wherever applicable. The accounting has to be driven by existing accounting standards. All insurance companies also has to follow AS. So I think the relevance of accounting standard is actually not tied. I mean, if I go to many clients now, I find that sizably large clients, private clients are still under IND AS, but most of them otherwise are under AS itself. And even from a tax perspective, like from the income tax perspective, even if a company has to follow IND AS, say 31st March 2019, if they have to follow IND AS, they have to restate a last year, which is 31st March 2018, with a transition date, which is 1st April 2017. But from an income tax perspective, the 3 CDs and the tax returns for the comparative year, which is March 18, has to be in AS itself. So only from an IND AS perspective, there is a restatement, but from a tax perspective, the comparative year has to be in AS. So some of these are common questions of our clients, that is AS still relevant? We tell them yes, it is very much relevant. If you are a sizably large company, more than 250 crores net worth, then yeah, you are out of it. But rest all the companies have to comply with accounting standards. So from that perspective, the accounting standards have to be complied by 3 levels of companies: level 1, level 2 and level 3. Now what are level 1 enterprises? Are enterprises which are listed or in the process of listing. But now this will get out, because all the listed entities has to follow IND AS. In the process of listing entities also has to follow IND AS. So we will not have level 1 applicable to the first line. Though they have not changed this, but considering that there is a recent notification overriding the old provision, the listed entities doesn't have to follow AS anymore. Banks have to follow AS until the banks actually adopt IND AS for the public reporting. All the banks have to be in AS. All financial institutions other than NBFCs who are about 250 crores are following IND AS now have to follow AS. Enterprises carrying on insurance business have to follow AS. All the other enterprises whose turnover of the immediate preceding year is greater than 50 crore and the borrowings are greater than 10 crores are compulsory to follow accounting standards. When we mean compulsory, all accounting standards AS1 to AS29 has to be followed by these companies. Now, what are level 2 enterprises for the purpose of compliance of accounting standards? Level 2 are the ones which have borrowings of, basically if you see the borrowing above is borrowing is greater than 10 crore. So obviously any company which has a borrowing of less than 10 crore but above 1 crore becomes a level 2 entity. Which is anything which has a borrowing of less than 1 crore is a level 3 entity. And similarly, a turnover that we saw is 50 crores for level 1. Any entity with a turnover of less than 50 crores but over and above 40 lakhs. This 40 lakhs was when 44AB was applicable, but I think we have not changed that. Institute has not changed the limit. It still retained 40 lakhs as a limit. But any entity with a turnover of above 40 lakhs but below 50 crores has to follow accounting standard with limited exemptions, and those are called level 2 entities. Other than level 2, rest all is level 3. So when we have to see which entity has to follow accounting standards, level 1 has to follow all accounting standards. Level 2 entities have to follow all accounting standards except for AS3. Cash flow statement is not mandatory for them unless they voluntarily want to prepare a cash flow statement. If any of your clients are struggling that we don't want cash flow for public reporting, if they are a small company, they can actually get exempted. Because that's an exemption given for level 2 entities by ICAI issued standards. And 17, which is segment reporting, AS21, which is consolidation. But consolidation now could be a problem because Companies Act was amended. And as per Companies Act, they don't have a size of the entity. Any company with a holding, with a subsidiary, associate or joint venture has to consolidate. So considering that, now AS21 and 23, though there is an exemption from accounting standard, because the Companies Act mandates consolidation, and as and when you consolidate, you have to follow AS21. Though it's there on the paper, technically this exemption is no more applicable. Because consolidation is must for every company. This is Companies Act 2013. So I think this has to be still amended by ICI in terms of the applicability, but they've retained the applicability as it is from years. But once I think they change it, they have to make this changes in the applicability schedule. AS 25, which is interim financial reporting, AS 27, which is joint ventures, they have an exemption to not to follow if it's a level 2 entity. Having said that, if it's a company which has a subsidiary, associate or joint venture, they have to consolidate. Compulsorily they have to consolidate, and therefore they end up following 21, 23 and 27. Now AS 19, they've given certain exemptions from disclosures, which is employee benefit standard. Not all disclosures are compulsory. AS 20, they have certain relaxations. AS 29, they have certain relaxation. So what we see is if it's a level 2 enterprise, now level 2 could be either a company or a non-company, but if it's a level 2 enterprise, they have to follow all AS except for relaxation given to them. And if it's a level 3 enterprise, in addition to all the relaxations of level 2, a level 3 enterprise has got an additional exemptions from following related party standard and discontinued operations standard. So when we mean related party, section 188, if it's a company, is still relevant. From a disclosure point of view, if it's an entity which is like less than 40 lakhs of turnover or less than 1 crore of borrowing in the preceding year, they don't have to disclose related party transactions. I think this is one thing that you may want to revisit, and if you want to reduce the efforts of reporting this, you might want to consider, because not all accounting standards are applicable for all companies. Basis turnover and borrowings, there are exemptions and relaxations available. So that's the applicability of accounting standards. And what I have seen in my practical experiences, even if it's like sometimes in the verge of complying with accounting standards, even if a partnership comes for an audit, we end up suggesting that all accounting standards have to be in place. Including cash flow statement, we make them prepare, but maybe it reduces an effort. You may take a call of what extent you want to report publicly. And because they don't have to comply with all the accounting standards. Now from an accounting standards point of view, I think we know the list. There are 29 accounting standards. Whatever is highlighted in blue is actually amended. And these amendments came through 2016 and few in 2017 and one or two in 2018. But significant amendments happened in 2016. So the idea that I think to have this is to recap all the amendments to accounting standards, because if you look at ICI compendium of accounting standards is 1st July 2017 compendium. So now all the amendments are introduced in the compendium. So if you are reading the compendium for your clients to clear up accounting standard positions, the compendium may not carry all the amendments. So we just have to kind of quickly glance through like what are the changes in the accounting standards. Some of this could be old, but the idea was, I will not take more time on this, but quickly to reintroduce what are the changes in the accounting standards happened in a couple of years, like last 2 to 3 years. And surprisingly, many places when I go to speak on IND AS or IFRS, right, generally the question is IND AS and IFRS is very complicated. Why do we even need to do this? Okay, we don't even need to know this. Unfortunately, I was just going through accounting standard board, okay, so has come out with the minutes of the meetings and what are the recent exposure drafts they want to introduce, etc. The idea is, I mean, the way IFRS started in India is that there was an IFRS, we introduced IND AS. IND AS was converged IFRSs, which are close to IFRS, not 100% IFRS. So if for example there is an Infosys, I mean there is any company for that matter, which is preparing financials in IFRS, they just can't take that IFRS financials and say these are IND AS. In fact, I think ICI clarified very clearly that for the purpose of IND AS, you have to start from Indian GAAP to IND AS, don't do IFRS to IND AS. Because you don't minus something and call it as IND AS, you start from scratch and build IND AS. Like when this entire IND AS convergence happened, this was the biggest question to many multinational companies. They said we always prepare IFRS financial statements. For the purpose of group reporting, all of this is ready. IND AS is 95% similar to IFRS. We just want to remove that 5% carve-ins or carve-outs and make a IND AS statement and give it to MCA for uploading. So ICI came out with a clarification that nothing doing. You can't touch IFRS and derive IND AS. You have to derive from IGAP to IND AS. So I think to that extent they said that IGAP to IND AS is a 95% effort, IND AS to IFRS is a 5% effort, so you can always take your IND AS as a base and prepare IFRS statements. Now what are we doing in an AS perspective? It's quite funny, I think, the way the accounting profession is going, quite challenging also, because every time we say that we are converging, we want to speak one language of accounting, but with all these changes, we are having multiple languages. Okay? Now we have IND AS, which is a different language, we have IFRS, which is a different language. Now what are they doing in accounting standards? Each accounting standard that we have, AS1 to AS29, on a priority basis, they're picking up each standard and they're changing the number and name to a IND AS standard. And they're introducing that to be an exposure gap, which is approximately like 90% similar to IND AS standard. So whereas India today, like if you are a company with less than 250 crores net worth, you will start with accounting standards, but all accounting standards are getting amended. We find more amendments in AS than IND AS now. So then with that, you will actually reach to an accounting standard compliant company, assuming the day your net worth becomes more than 250 crores, that year, from the next year, assuming your net worth is 250 crores this year, from the next year, you will have to do IND AS. So you have to now move from AS to IND AS. According to ASB, it's a 10% journey. Because if you were compliant with AS which are amended, you're almost close to IND AS. Then moving from AS to IND AS is a small journey. And moving from IND AS to IFRS is a small journey. But the point we have is, why do you even want to have this small journey? Why don't we 100% make it similar? I mean, don't have carve-ins and carve-outs, so that one doesn't have to read AS to AS differences. Now that's what we are doing, existing AS to new AS differences, then AS to IND AS differences, then IND AS to IFRS differences. And I've been called as an expert in accounting standards just because I know the differences. So over the period I've forgotten the standard, I only remember differences. So if someone comes and asks me, I hardly get a call from a client asking how is the accounting to be done. The most calls I get is, what is the difference between AS to IND AS to IFRS, and this is IFRS to AS. Okay. Now, it's becoming, in most publications are only on differences. Okay. And surprisingly, I think that's what is happening, but with the journey, I think we want to eliminate this more policy choices and eliminate carve-ins and carve-outs and bring the accounting standards which are globally compliant, but I think the journey is still not 100%, it's 90%. So with this, I think whatever is highlighted in blue is what is actually amended accounting standard. So we'll quickly touch upon what are the amendments in the accounting standard so far. Disclosure, there are no amendments. Valuation of inventories. The amendment in 2016 introduced was that any spare parts earlier were called as inventories. All the spare parts and consumables were part of inventories. However, as per the amendment, if a spare part has got a life which is irregular, like more than maybe 1 year or enduring life, or it has got a life which is symmetrical to fixed assets, or it's a spare part which has to be used as part of a fixed asset, and it cannot be a standby equipment by itself, it has to be used as part of a fixed asset, then it's as good as fixed asset. You capitalize the spare part as a fixed asset. And after this amendment, I'm sure some of you will have practical experiences you can add on. But after this amendment, most companies like Bell, PEML, HAL, which are more of capital intensive industries, started reading their spare part register, which is inventory register, and tried identifying those spare parts which are generally not in inventory in nature. Not basically current in nature, and something which is associated with a fixed asset now can be capitalized to fixed asset, and depreciate that spare part as part of your fixed asset itself. So that eventually, I think, reduces the burden of companies in P&L account, because otherwise maybe 3 years or 5 years uniformly they used to write off spare parts. Now they can actually capitalize the spare part and write off as if it has the value of machinery. That's in one amendment. And AS4 was amended. AS4 was contingencies and events occurring after the balance sheet date. As per this amendment, the dividend which is declared by the company in an AGM, what we used to do earlier, before this amendment, any dividend which is declared in the board of, proposed in the board of directors meeting on 30th June or 31st July, whenever the meeting happens, so we used to take it as an adjusting event and record it as if this dividend pertains to a current year. Like if it's 31st March 2019 closure and September 2019 was an AGM, the dividend of that declared year, which is 2019, was recorded on 31st March 2019 itself. After this amendment, and all this amendment, I am just quickly recapping. These are not new, but it's just good to recap because FRRB observations which came up in 2018 is mostly on this amendments. There are quite a few companies who have not tracked this amendment and made the changes. So what they tried doing in AS4 is they brought AS4 similar to IND AS standard. And now they say that any dividend which is declared has to be recorded as a dividend in the year in which it is declared, not for the year for which it actually pertains. So which is September 2019 dividend now will be recorded in September 2019 itself. Basically 1920 gets captured, not in 1890. And accordingly, there were certain clarifications issued in terms of dividend distribution tax, because we had a guidance note that now if you declare a dividend in September 19 and pay off, you're supposed to pay a dividend declaration tax in September 19, but you recorded this dividend in 31st March 19, and obviously the declaration tax also is due to be paid. As in when you record dividend, the tax is due to be paid. So this dividend distribution tax should have been accrued on 31st March 19. So they clarify now that there was a guidance note which has to be withdrawn, not yet withdrawn, but the clarification of that guidance note is whichever the year you record dividend is the year you actually record dividend distribution tax. But we have seen certain errors in companies that they do follow sometimes AS4 and record dividend in September 19, but we have seen errors of because accountants are used to accruing the dividend distribution tax on March 19, they continue to accrue on March 19. So then we have to now see that both of this have to be hand in hand. So whenever you record dividend, there is a period when you record dividend distribution tax. So that was an amendment in AS4. AS6 is I think now not relevant, as we are aware depreciation accounting is removed and it's included in AS10. I will talk about AS10 in detail because AS10 I think is one standard which is changing avatars. It kept on changing. There was an AS10 fixed assets amendment in 2016. Then they got an AS10, then there was a rename called as property, plant and equipment. It's no more called as fixed assets, it's now called as property and PME, property, plant and equipment. And this is another observation by FRRB that even today most companies call their assets as fixed assets in Schedule 3. Okay? And apparently, so Schedule 3 is also amended in the current year, like when we, in October 2018, there was an amendment to Schedule 3 and they changed this word from fixed assets to PPE. So 31st March 2019, when we are signing off the balance sheets, it could be a material, I'm not saying it's an error, but it could be a materially apparent item because fixed assets is the first item in the financial statement and it cannot be called as fixed assets anymore. It has to be termed as property, plant and equipment. Now they issued a new exposure draft on AS10 which is called AS16. So once the exposure draft becomes a standard, AS10 I think which all my life I have remembered AS10 because banking Schedule 10 was fixed assets, insurance company Schedule 10 was fixed assets. So it was very easy to remember AS10 because most places the Schedule 10 was fixed assets. Apparently AS10 will not be anymore AS10, it will become AS16. Now why AS16? Because there is an IND AS 16 which is called property, plant and equipment. So gradually each accounting standard they are renaming and renumbering in line with IND AS. So I think I have a couple of slides as I move forward on the exposure drafts released by ICAI and accounting standards. When you look at, I think there are more than 9 exposure drafts and all the 9, they have renamed the standard and renumbered the standard. And all of that is to make the standard number in line with IND AS. So maybe I think as we speak 31st March 20, we may have AS16 as fixed assets and not AS10. So what happens to AS16? AS16 will become AS23. Because IND AS 23 is borrowing cost. Okay. And what happens to now AS23? I think AS23 may become AS110. Because IND AS 110 is consolidation and associate related accounting. So I think watch out because number of your accounting standard is changing. So it will not be 1 to 29 anymore. So as and when the exposure draft is released, maybe it's time for us to watch that the numbers cannot be the same. So now AS 10, accounting for fixed assets, though I am calling it, now it's called property, plant and equipment. And this amendment came before it was called property, plant and equipment, and then they amended to say that everywhere there is fixed assets term now should be called as PP&E. So what was the amendment in AS 10? Now there was earlier the livestock, which was all these animals and etc. were never called as fixed assets. The amended standard introduces a rule for livestock also. Now even the livestock will be called as fixed assets. So including the biological assets, they say the produce out of biological assets is not a fixed asset because that will definitely be an inventory, but the biological asset itself is a fixed asset now. So what Institute clarified is that unless they issue a new standard on agricultural accounting, apparently that's one of the next thing for chartered accountants to look for, because there are many opportunities for chartered accountants to advise companies on agricultural accounting. Because you find, I think, after all this, we work with some of this, it's getting recorded, but still if you look at Current Fit, it's one of the new venture, and they are focusing mostly on health, right? And I think I met a couple of startups, and most startups are focusing on agricultural related produce, most to do with, I think, organic products, right? Growing organic products, patenting organic products. I think that's become a trend now. So a friend of mine, I think, is growing something. He's spending some 60 lakh rupees to grow. I forgot what it is, but I think it's kind of a powder that you need to mix it along with your food, and it, I think, stimulates 60% of the energy, and it gives like almost 60% of the protein requirements for your body. So apparently I think it's time to patent it, and once it's patented, he's already got a person to fund him for 10 crores, and he just want to go big on that. Now how to account for this? I think as of now AS are silent, but with 10 crores we still have to follow AS, and then I think is where we have to look at agricultural accounting. There are quite a few new ventures on agricultural accounting now. I mean, there was one venture that I recently come across, that they have, like say they have 1 acre of land. You can book maybe 200 square feet or 300 square feet. You can just book the part of the land. Apparently you don't know which is your part, but you can book one part. Like say you book 500 square feet of a land. Whatever is grown in that 500 square feet, they send it to your home. So apparently now that you don't own a 1 acre land, but you can still own a portion of the land and the entire agricultural produce. I mean, you can also prescribe what you want that land to be grown as. Like if you can say carrots and beans and potatoes, etc., they grow all of it and they straight deliver to the home. And for that they charge some 2,500, 2,600, I think something like that, which is less than a vegetable cost that you incur. And that's not new venture. And of course I'm thinking if they're going for funding, the funding is definitely within like 5 to 10 crores and they would register themselves as a company. The question is now, how do I account? Because all of this accounting standards does not address. So that's why the institute came up with agricultural accounting exposure draft, that how to account all of this agricultural companies. Okay, so until the agricultural accounting exposure draft becomes a final standard, the ICAI has issued that all these biological assets are considered to be fixed assets. And you record as if it is a fixed asset, whatever is the cost incurred to bring that biological asset into a picture becomes the cost of the fixed asset. Maybe this is one room to look out, because I am finding a lot of queries on this area of agricultural accounting. There's enough guidance in IFRS and enough guidance in US GAAP, because those countries, this happens in a large scale. In India, it was only considered to be a sector of farmers, but now we find, I think, more than farmers getting into the field of agriculture. So therefore, the importance of accounting is automatically emerging. So that was one amendment, and then they made an amendment for investment property. Again, that's another big amendment. So, big amendment in terms of a disclosure. So earlier, if you own say 10 buildings for renting out, those 10 buildings were called as property, plant and equipment itself. Because the AS 13, though it had a language of an investment property in one paragraph, nobody actually followed an investment property disclosure. What we used to do is under investment, we used to show investment in immovable properties as a line item. Right? So now they made a change saying that if you have any investment property, it has to be disclosed as investment property, and you have to definitely record it at cost, which is what you've been doing it so far. But what has changed is you should also disclose the fair value in the financial statements. To that extent, the valuation professionals picked up. I think why most valuers are now emerging, because as per the new Companies Act 2013, many valuations require certified valuer to value it, and ICAI has issued valuation standards also for valuation. And most accounting standards, rather Indian accounting standards, required valuation. Now that's also becoming a trend in accounting standards. Like this is one classic example that if you have an investment property, you should disclose the fair value of it. And the fair value every year changes, right? Because the guidance value also every year changes. And there are companies who say, can we just show guidance value as a fair value? But the answer is actually no. Because guidance value is not a market value. So that's market value is generally little higher than guidance value. So to that extent, again, there's an amendment that if there is an investment property in your assets, you'll have to show it separately and record it at cost and disclose it in the financial statements, the fair value of that. Similarly, the next amendment in fixed asset standard is that if there are spare parts, just I think with AS2 there was a credit leg of that. AS2, wherever it was a fixed asset, the AS2 mentioned that it has to be a fixed asset. How to record it as a fixed asset is introduced in AS10. And how to depreciate that spare part, that literature is added in AS10. Basically now what is the rule to look out is that spare parts can continue to be fixed assets. If the spare part is high in value and which is specific to a fixed asset, it can actually become a fixed asset. So the next amendment in fixed assets is safety and environmental assets, right? Earlier there was no guidance on how to record the safety and environmental assets, which could be like fire emissions. We still recorded as fixed asset, but there was no guidance on how to record and how to depreciate that. Right? So they added a guidance on how to record the safety and environmental asset. First of all, whether it becomes a fixed asset. So the question there was, can you say that economic benefit is derived out of it? The institute said obviously yes, because without that safety asset, my other assets cannot run, and I can't say that economic benefit has to be derived only in the form of an output of an asset. It can also be derived when one asset substitutes the other asset. When one asset is benefiting the other asset, is also considered to be economic benefit. And similarly, when it reduces your penalties, because having the safety measurements are requirements of Act. Now you have to have the safety assets. So we have a client who is a huge construction client who invests a lot in helmets, obviously helmets and gloves and all of that. And of course this will last for 3 to 5 years. There is definitely a theft and something gets destroyed, but most of this definitely gets last for 3 to 5 years. Now how to record these helmets, there was no guidance. Now this helmet becomes a safety asset, it can also be called as fixed asset. And apparently in your fixed assets, you can have the safety assets as one line item and depreciate basis the value. The only thing you have to look out is impairment, because some of these assets, which are, if they are like small in size, might not be continuously detailed. You will lose something. Correct? And the less than 5,000 rupees concept is gone now, as you are aware, that you don't have to have an asset of more than 5,000 as fixed asset anymore. It could be as small as 500 rupees to 5 lakh rupees can become a fixed asset. So that's again I think an amendment. If some of you are working with construction companies or companies which actually invest a lot in safety equipment, you might have to, you can advise them that to an extent of some of their assets can still qualify to be fixed assets. It reduces the burden on P&L again. Component accounting, I'm sure we have been doing it in AS10. Alright, so what is, I think the amendment happened in 2016, but even today what I don't see most companies are following is physical component is still separate, but a non-physical component they don't separate. Like for example, if a car and an engine, obviously if an engine has a life of 5 years and a car has a life of 10 years, we do see that companies separating engine and a car, and engine gets depreciated over 5 years and car gets depreciated over 10 years. Okay? The body of the car. To that extent, I think people are still following components for physical parts. If it's a biggest machine with like 2-3 big components, they do separate it. But most companies I have seen takes a safer route. That all my components are actually not a separable component and I can't separate it, it's very negligible, and they just record everything to be an asset. So, but I think what are the, if some of your clients are facing government audit, what I have been seeing of late with the government auditors is, they do ask for a capex budget, the capital expenditure budget, and a replacement of items which are not purchases. Basically, something which is to do with the capital nature, all the capital POs they ask, and they ask a capex budget. So if you have many capital POs where you see additions to capital assets in terms of maybe addition of an engine or addition of an electric device or something like that which is little high in value, the question I think this government auditors are picking up is, let's say I have an asset of 1 lakh, okay, it has like 10,000 rupees of an electric component to it. Every 2 years, I have to replace this electric component in this machine. So initially I said 1 lakh is my machinery, and I said no components. Very happy. 1 lakh we are depreciating over 10 years. Okay. After 2 years, you find that there is a 10,000 rupees of an electric component which got replaced. Now what the question which comes up is, the original asset which had an electric component, you are still depreciating over 10 years, but you are replacing another 10,000 rupees. How can it have 2 electric components? Which is to definitely remove one and fix another thing. The question here is that whatever you remove, you actually have to remove the cost of it. Let's say this 10,000 you are depreciating over 10 years, now you have depreciated only 2,000. The 8,000 that you have not depreciated, right now write off. Because you are actually adding another asset worth 10,000. And I think most of the clients, when they say that we don't have components, maybe this is one thing that you might want to alarm them, that if they have a capital expenditure budget and if you see additions to fixed assets very often, which is not a machinery completely by itself, it's only a part of the machinery, then one could question on component accounting easily. Or what I think we have seen, we informing clients that you take it as a repairs and maintenance expenditure. Then they freak out. Like, how can I say this 10,000 rupees is repairs and maintenance? It is a significant component. So I think all of that has to be looked very carefully. Because most times the minute a machinery is purchased, we allow them to capitalize everything. We allow them to depreciate the machinery for its life of the machinery. But we do not want them that whenever they replace the part of that machinery, the existing part has to be decapitalized. And might as well, which means they have to do component accounting from the start. So I think this is some area to look down, because even today it's only on the paper, it has not been taken very seriously by many companies. Now what is this non-physical component, which most companies I know are not recording, but I think picking up the popularity. So any asset requires a major inspection. Right? A major overhaul, major cleaning, so major shutdown which happens. Like if it's a huge plant for like good 2 months or 1.5 months or maybe good 15 days, they shut down the plant for cleaning the entire plant. And you see most companies who are cleaning this shutdown cost or this huge inspection or overhaul expense, they capitalize. Okay, saying that, and some people write up, but some people do capitalize, saying that this increase my value of machinery. But what they forget to do is, like again, if I have a machinery of 10 crores and I'm assuming I'm incurring after 5 years an inspection cost of 10 lakhs, they do capitalize 10 lakhs, which is very good, but they depreciate this 10 lakh over the life of a machinery. So what we forget to do is that the inspection has to happen once in 5 years. This first inspection has a life only until next inspection. So then which means the depreciation of this inspection cost has to happen only until the next inspection. So once in 5 years, then I have to depreciate. So because it is a non-physical component, you can't associate a body to it. So most companies just blindly adds it to the fixed asset and keeps depreciating for the life of the fixed asset, which means every time there is an inspection, you are adding it to fixed asset and you are doubling up the value of a fixed asset. So I think that's another area which I think many companies are, well, in my knowledge, not doing it right. And that I think one thing that you need to watch out for March 90 knowledge, because I think FRRB observations is again on component accounting. Similarly, I think component cost we spoke about, site restoration obligation. Again, this was an amendment. Say you have a site which is of 10 crores worth right now, and there is an environmental obligation that after 20 years, when you are actually removing the asset, erected asset from the site, you will have to level the site back to its original condition and return back to the either the lessor or the government, whoever has given you that land. Okay? So if you have an obligation to return the land in as-is condition, that's called as an asset retirement obligation, which is at the time when the asset is getting retired, you have an obligation to make the asset in the original condition. It happens in most lease agreements also. Though we are talking about fixed assets, in many lease agreements we hire one entire empty room which is just plug and play, and then people will build their own partitions, their own I think cabins and meeting rooms, and they do all the false ceilings, they do all electric things, they do all kind of interiors, they make it look very beautiful, and the agreement says whenever the lease gets expired, you will have to make it in as-is condition give. Which is that they're vacating this, ideally they have to remove all the partitions, all the cabins, everything, and do it in the condition which they actually took it at the time of renting out. And that's called as an asset retirement obligation. And what the standard expects us to do now is, if you have an asset retirement obligation of say 1 lakh rupees to clean up the asset after 10 years, you have to present value that 1 lakh as on today and record it as your cost of the asset. Say if you have a cost of an asset of 10 lakhs and you have 1 lakh rupees of an obligation to remove the asset and make it in as-is condition, that 1 lakh as on today has to be present value and you have to record it as cost of an asset. Let's say that 1 lakh present value comes up to be 10,000. I'll debit PPE, which is property, plant and equipment. I'll credit provision for decommissioning liability or provision for asset retirement obligation 10,000. And this 10,000 is a liability today which will take a journey of 10 years, because this 10,000 at the end of the 10th year has to become 1 lakh. Because I started present valuing this 1 lakh. So then you have to keep computing a future value of that, keep unwinding it, you get a notional interest expense. Because with this 10,000 will become say 20,000, 20,000 will become say 32,000, 32,000 will become say 45,000, so on and so forth. When you start unwinding the asset, the differential has to be recorded as an expense and the credit goes to provision. So that at the end of 10th year, you have a provision of 1 lakh which is estimated as ready. And this is applicable for most of the companies which have got machinery erected to the land. We have most companies have got leasehold buildings where on top of it they have constructed something, have done leasehold improvements, have done interiors. I think they have to watch out this provision. Wherever you find that there is a factory building and if that particular laws of the environment laws of that particular industry expects them to re-level the land again back to normal and then give it back to them. For example, coal, right? All coal mines, once I think the coal is extracted, it's an environment law that it has to be leveled back and given to them. They just can't leave the deep ground as it is and hand it over to the lessor. So this is something which is again an amendment in AS 10 that any retirement obligation have to be capitalized to asset as on today. Under AS 10. Okay. This is again, and I think these are all amendments which are introduced in AS 10 in order to make AS 10 in line with IND AS 16, which is the IND AS standard of PPE. And after all this amendment, what they are suggesting now is they issued an exposure draft on AS 16, which actually will have mostly 99% of similarities of an IND AS 16, and this AS 10 will become an AS 16 which is equivalent to IND AS 16. That's the journey of an ASB right now. Okay. So with all of this, I think we are almost close to IND AS. Because there's no differences left between AS and IND AS with most of this adjustments introduced by accounting standards. So now another adjustment in AS 10 was to do with deferred settlements. Okay, this is again most of the companies I think doesn't do this, and there was an EAC opinion also that any retention money that you have has to be discounted and recorded. So what does it mean? Okay, let's say we have a fixed asset of 1 lakh and there's a capital creditor. We have agreed to pay 80% upfront and we pay 20% after 2 years. So that's how the retention is generally made. So we have an asset of a 1 lakh on which 80,000 is settled within 30 days, 45 days, 90 days, whatever is the credit terms are, and the other 20% is settled after 2 years as a retention kept by me. So what we used to do in Indian GAAP, simple entry, connect property, plant and equipment 1 lakh, 2 capital creditors 1 lakh, capital creditors 80,000, then 2 bank 80,000, the 20,000 capital creditors was reclassified to retention payable and show it under your non-current liabilities as retention payable. And as and when it becomes current, shift from non-current to current. Okay. Now what the standard expects us to do, and this is AS, and I think that's why we said we really have to come back and see that most AS are similar to IND AS now. And what this AS expects us to do right now is that if you have a retention money which is to be payable after 2 years, time value of money, the present value of that 20,000 that you are supposed to pay after 2 years is not 20,000 today. Therefore, you discount that 20,000 as on today, and that actually becomes your fixed asset. Which means my fixed asset is not 1 lakh, my fixed asset will be 80,000 which I am paying as per the normal terms, plus present value of that 20,000 which I am paying after 2 years. So that comes up to be, let's say if I am putting like a discount rate of 10% and say 0.909 and 0.826, then I am talking about around 17,400. So my asset will be now only 80,000 plus 70,400. And the remaining portion is actually an expense. So every year the 17,400 has to become 20,000. So I keep unwinding this. As and when I unwind this portion, I will record it as an interest expense because I have taken a deferred settlement. I did not pay him for 2 years, to that extent I am paying him interest. So this, of course, what they used to do earlier, they earlier used to actually, the person who is giving this capital creditor used to compute this interest and give it to you as part of the arrangement. Now the standard requires you to record cost as cost and record interest expense as interest expense. You have a question?
What is to be done in the books of seller?
What has to be done in the books of the seller? Revenue. For the seller, this is a revenue. Now for him, the revenue will only be 80,000 plus present value of 20,000. Now that's a good point, but AS 9 is not amended. So if you look at only AS 10 is amended from a buyer's perspective. AS 9 is not amended from a seller's perspective. So now considering in an accounting standard regime, a seller can continue to record 1 lakh as sales, whereas buyer will only record like 80,000 plus present value of 20,000 as an expense, the remaining goes as interest expense. And therefore now to your question, they have introduced a new exposure draft on AS 11, which is similar to IND AS 11. This is a construction company, whoever has a revenue with a retention money in it, that exposure draft makes it mandatory for them to record present value as revenue. So once an exposure draft comes through, then you will find both legs matching. Even the buyer will record present value, seller will also record present value. But standing today, I think you have a good point that only buyer will record present value, but seller still has to follow AS 9 or AS 7 for that matter, depending on whether it's goods or whether it is construction.
Seller has to show it as long-term receivable.
Seller has to show it as a long-term receivable, correct.
Yeah, it will be debtor
In the books of a seller, correct.
Yeah, and after whatever the period gets over, they return the retention.
Exactly.
But they have always been returning without interest only.
Yeah, interest is embedded in that. Correct. Correct. So, but from a buyer's point of view, so it's a debtor for him, it's a creditor for me. But creditor for me today will only be 80,000 plus present value of this 20,000. Whereas debtor for him will be entire 1 lakh.
1 lakh and 20,000 is shown as
Long term. 20,000 is shown as a long term trade receivable. I agree with you. Yeah. To that extent, I think there is still I think it's not going hand in hand. Because I think if somebody has to take an external confirmation and you ask like a buyer the confirmation of that amount, the creditor balances will mismatch with debtor balances. Yeah. So I think, but that I think is a matter of time. Once the exposure draft becomes a final standard, then both of these legs will be the same.
What discount rate would be applied to arrive at a present?
So what they are saying is in these cases, okay, if you are a seller, you have to apply cost of capital because basically you are lending to somebody. You are asking somebody to pay you after 2 years. So this is as good as your cost of capital.
In case of site restoration,
They are talking about risk-adjusted weighted average cost. Whenever it's a restoration.
that is again
Right.
discretion.
Right, yeah. It is discretion actually. If you look at, I think, the standard, so AS 10 when they amended, they haven't spoken about what is discount rate. Okay, that they're silent.
My risk weightage can be different from
From the other person. So then you will actually take your risk-adjusted weighted average cost of capital as a rate to discount your provisions. So your decommissioning liability or NIAO is a provision. Discounting of provisions is an internal matter because you can't compare it to an external world. So your company's weighted average cost of capital, which is risk-adjusted, pre-tax risk-adjusted becomes a rate for discounting.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
What happens if the buyer and seller's account need to be consolidated?
If it's in a consolidation, then ideally all these adjustments have to be reversed, because anyways I'm nullifying receivable to payable, sales to expenses, and inventory is always has to be at its cost.
Should be a lot of additional work.
Yeah, there is a lot of additional work. So what we suggest the company which has to be consolidated is that in a consolidation scenario, generally what we suggest is a subsidiary company, we ask them to not to pass this present value entry for the purpose of consol books. Or if you would have passed, then you reverse the entry and then consolidate. Ideally in consolidation, this entire transaction will have a zero impact. Because your receivable payable gets knocked off, your sales and purchases gets knocked off, your inventory is anyways back to at its cost. So I think there are some points I think we need to look at, and I think there are a couple of more amendments in AS 10. I think I will quickly probably just recap on this. AS 10, I think scope now it also includes biological assets, livestock, that's another one amendment. It includes investment property, which is investment in immovable property for the purpose of earning rentals or capital appreciation, now is termed as investment property, to be separately shown. Accounting for spare parts which qualifies to be a fixed asset has to be recorded as fixed asset. Accounting for safety and environmental assets, there is a guidance on how do you record this assets and what should be the cost of this asset. Component accounting, though we know that we have been talking about it for years now, but people generally do tick in the box job. They just say that we comply, but they don't generally do a component accounting. So one of the few things that you have to alarm them is if it's a capital intensive industry, please do tell them that their additions to fixed assets will be closely reviewed. Because the more the additions, which means the component accounting is not complied with. As long as addition is a new facility, it's fine, but addition is to an existing facility, then component accounting can be questioned. And similarly, I think component cost, like any asset retirement obligation, deferred settlements has to be now discounted and recorded. Decommissioning restoration we spoke about. I think again subsequent, we had two models of recognizing a fixed asset earlier, cost model and revaluation model. This continues to be there, but what is changed is, if you are applying the revaluation model, when you fair value your asset, what is the frequency of that revaluation was not given under AS 10. It could be once in 3 years, it could have been once in 5 years, though we said it, as an auditor we suggest once in a year, but generally the standard is silent. You can revalue any intermittent times. Now I think the standard is changed to say that if you have applied a model, it has to be a model. Which means if you have applied, you have to prescribe today that how frequently you are fair valuing. And the standard says at least minimum once in a year you have to do it. Because if you are doing a quarterly reporting, then okay, for a quarter you don't fair value the asset, because though you applied a revaluation model, you can continue to show the asset as at its value for 1 year, but once in a year you do need to fair value. If you are applying a fair valuation or a revaluation model. So this, to this extent of the term, now there is an amendment. This is mostly to do with the AS 10 useful life. This is another thing. Most of us generally advise clients, including I think some of us we did, Schedule 2 we think to be a Bible. Whatever the useful lives given in the Schedule 2 is generally applied to be a useful life. Apparently Schedule 2 is only an indicative useful life, and the company has to make a technical assessment. So as long as they are following Schedule 2, generally what we tend to do is, because depreciation is in line with Schedule 2, we just say okay, it is fine. But what the standard says is that according to the accounting standard, Schedule 2 is of no relevance. So you have an asset of like having the life of 10 years as per Schedule 2, but you believe because of the multi-shift or because of rough use or because of using some kind of a raw material which hardens the machine faster, if you believe that the machine only has a life of 6 years, though Schedule 2 has 10 years, you have to depreciate 6 years. So what I mean to say is, just because they depreciated for 10 years doesn't mean it is correct. The standard expects now the companies to evaluate useful life on every year. Apparently how many companies does this we don't know, and if you are signing off any, again, capital intensive industries where they have many plants and machinery and equipment on their balance sheet, year on year they have to give you a certificate. It need not be an external certificate, but an internal certificate confirming that this is a life. And what we have seen in February, what is very popular with government auditors nowadays is that they just ask FAR, fixed asset register, and they generally look at these items like chair, table, computers, laptops, because which we tend to depreciate over 5 years or 3 years or 8 years, whatever the case may be, but we tend to use it for n number of years. I'm sure the chairs I think here would have been depreciated 2 years back according to the life, but we're still using it. So then they say that how can you have a zero value asset used as the asset, which means you never reviewed your asset properly. And thereby it's considered to be error in your estimation. And some of these are popular queries of government auditors nowadays. So there were a couple of PSUs we were advising them of late recently, and all these PSUs came back that what government auditors are popularly looking at is taking an FAR. When they do a physical verification, they just don't tick off silently. They do look at the zero value assets, like mostly fans, AC, right? Even the leasehold improvements for that matter. So most of these companies who takes the premises on lease, they get all the interiors done. They write off generally for 5 years. Which is the original lease term, because you would have only had a 5 years agreement. Then you renew the agreement for another 5 years. But then at the end of the 4th year, I would know that I am going to renew it, because nobody will renew on the last day. The process of renewal would have started much earlier. Now the expectation is that at the end of 5th year, when you know that you are renewing for another 5 years, and you know that these leasehold improvements will have a life of another 3 years, technically you will have to defer the depreciation over next 3 years. You have to revisit the life of the asset regularly. But most companies doesn't do it, and these are sizable amounts. I mean, though it looks theoretical, but I've seen in many clients, these amounts are very big. And they do, like, if some of these MNCs spend a lot on leasehold improvements. They take any of these business parks and they really spend a lot of money to make their interiors look nice. And they depreciate on the original term of the lease, they don't look at subsequent term of the lease. And so what I think we question them is, so generally some of these people are quite smart. They'll have 3 years term and they say renewable once in 3 years, and up to I think 3 terms they generally know that they renew it. So we ask them that how much is an expense that you incurred on this interior. So let's say they give a big number, like like 80 crores or maybe 8 crores, 10 crores, whatever is the big number. We ask them that with this number, what is your expectancy of staying in this office? Because if you incur 10 crores for interiors, nobody would be willing to leave in 3 years. Right? They would definitely want to stretch it. And therefore, in the lease agreement, they make an amendment or they make a protection for themselves that only lessee can cancel. A lessor can cancel only if there are breach of conditions or you are like not safe and you are getting into activities which are, not healthy. Only then you are able to cancel. But as a lessee, I have a right to extend. As a lessor, you can cancel only as a protection right. And then wherever these clauses are there, one has to look at carefully because the leasehold improvements will have a life of more than original term of lease. And mostly the leases which will take 11 months, right? Once in 11 months they keep renewing it. We've seen that many leasehold improvements they were written up within a year. And some of these are beneficial to clients because if they know that this has a life of 3 years, they expect that they can renew for 3 years. And the question now you ask them is how you expect. They show us that clause, saying that now that I have a right to renew and the other person has an obligation to continue because it doesn't give him a right to cancel. Unless I cancel, he can't automatically cancel, then I go by what is the judgment of lessee. And then accordingly depreciate. And in some of these matters, I think one has to look at it, component accounting, ARO, decommissioning, etc. I think some of these we spoke about. Now, the next amendment which happened in accounting standard was AS 14, accounting for amalgamation. All the statutory reserves like amalgamation reserve, amalgamation adjustment reserve, all of these, where to show this reserve was part of the standard itself earlier. Now what the amendment says is that you go by court order. If the court order says that amalgamation adjustment reserve has to be written off over 3 years, you will have to follow as per the court order. So complying with the order, the court order will prevail over accounting standards. So though there is a literature in accounting standard, if the court order does not permit you to have a reserve, you cannot have a reserve. And this position is recently being confirmed by NCLAT also. If you see now, most of these fast track mergers, cross-border mergers that we are seeing, NCLT is very smart. Like NCLT says, unless a chartered accountant signs of an accounting position, they don't approve the merger order. I'm sure I think some of you must be witnessing this, but this is what we are seeing with most deals that our firm is working on today. That any deal where there is a merger or there's a spin-off or there's a hive-off, if you are applying this to a NCLT, unless it is certified by a chartered accountant that the accounting is in line with accounting standards, they don't give the approval. But earlier, there were smarter ways to do it, because earlier this provision was not there with NCLT. So what earlier we used to do, whatever is beneficial to client, like I remember, revaluation reserve can be called as general reserve. And we did this kind of changes in the order, and the court approved it, because court doesn't understand accounting, but the court is more theoretical. So because they approved it, the revaluation reserve was actually became a general reserve. And deferred tax liabilities have to become zero. So all of these are like structuring ways that people used to file a SPA, the shared purchase agreement, or the merger order in a way that it helps them to account. Now I think the NCLT has become stringent that unless you say that your account has per accounting standards, they are not going to give a clearance. So to that extent, I think our profession has got another opportunity to give certifications. We see many chart auditors will give the certificate for the purpose of merger. So I think it's a good route, but they amended to say court order will override the standard. Therefore, court order came up and said that we don't give an order unless you say that you are abiding the standard. So to that extent, I think both of us are safe. Consolidation, okay. Earlier, what we used to do. It was, I think this most of us are aware, that if you only had an associate or only had a joint venture, but if you never had a subsidiary, consolidation standard was not applicable. Because AS 23, which was the standard on associate accounting, was applicable only if AS 21, which is consolidation standard, was applicable. Which is when entity had an associate but never had a subsidiary, how to consolidate, there was no guidance. Because AS 21 was not applicable. Then they made a change. They made a change to say that even if you don't have a subsidiary, consolidation standard is applicable. Because we still have to consolidate with associates and joint ventures. And this is because the Companies Act 2013 changed, because they introduced section 129. In that they introduced to say that consolidation is must even if you have subsidiary or associate or joint venture. It's not and associate and joint venture. To that extent there was an amendment made. Provisions we spoke about, decommissioning liability has to be discounted back. If you have any restoration obligation or decommissioning obligation, you have to record it as part of cost of the asset. And this is a quick summary of, I'm sure these were all amendments we knew. It was just, I think we thought now that we are approaching the year end and closing of March 19, it could be a good recap for you to revisit, because some of these amendments you may not find in compendium. So I think we'll have to look at it. And just to recap, AS2 spare parts, contingent, dividend is no more an adjusting event, dividend is actually a non-adjusting event. Property, plant and equipment is what we need to call fixed assets now. It's no more called fixed assets. And component accounting is mandatory. Investment property has to be recorded with cost model. Amalgamation, statutory reserve presentations as driven by court order. Consolidation is compulsory even if you have one associate or one joint venture. Even if you don't have subsidiary, do consolidate. Depreciation is no more there. Decommissioning liability, ARO, major inspection cost requires a component accounting, which means you have a non-physical component to a physical component. Some of this have to be watched for. So, in 11th October 2018, which is applicable for March 19 closure, there was an amendment to Schedule 3. So, Section 129, read with Schedule 3, we have three divisions of Schedule 3 now. Division 1 for those companies which are following accounting standards. Division 2 for those companies which are following IND AS, and Division 3 for those companies which are following NBFC, which are NBFCs. Okay. So we never had Division 3. This year, for the first time, MCA has issued a Schedule 3 format for NBFCs. And as some of you are, and I think NBFC is again a tricky area, and we see in everyday newspaper that NBFC is in ICU. That's something I think which has been picked up conversations that they are really suffering, and I think Ambani family is doing a lot to become no debt company. So with all of that, we find NBFCs is again a big area of traction. And even this government has promised to, I think, do a lot more for NBFCs revival, right, and rehabilitation. So with all of this, I think from an accounting point of view, the institute has done its bit. The Schedule 3 of NBFCs is totally different than Schedule 3 of normal accounting standard company. So you will find, I think, even the classification, there is no current non-current classification. If it's an NBFC, they don't have to do current non-current classification. So you will find that in some of these strange balance sheet formats, because bank and insurance company doesn't have current non-current classification. So obviously with an NBFC being part of a banking system, they doesn't want to include the Schedule 3 format as it is. So there is a change in the format for NBFCs, and Division 1, which is what all of us follow for accounting standards, they made 2 amendments to Division 1. One, as I told you, fixed assets cannot be called as fixed asset, it has to be now called as property and P&E, property, plant and equipment, and security premium reserve under section 52, that what we used to recognize earlier, now should only be called as securities premium. So we can't call it a security, it is no more a reserve, I think they're clarifying. That though it's part of reserve, it's not a reserve because you can only utilize for the purpose mentioned in section 52. So it's not like a reserve that you're utilizing for an unknown activity in the future, it is for a known activity. Because I know that this is only 5 reasons that I can use section 52. Therefore the term reserve has been removed. So I think these are the 2. Division 2 I am not touching, but if some of you are signing off IND AS financials, Division 2 is also changed. MSME, they want to bring it as a separate line item. Your trade payables now has to be bifurcated into trade payables for MSME, trade payables for non-MSME. And all the MSME Act disclosures have to come in the financial statement. This is only for IND AS companies, but not for AS companies. AS companies, there are just 2 changes, fixed assets and securities premium. But for an IND AS company, trade receivable, trade payable, they have suggested new ways of presenting the financial statements. So the format is actually changed. Even the movement of provisions, apparently they are saying each type of a reserve has to be explained in the balance sheet. Like if you have got a capital reserve, earlier we just used to have capital reserve. Now what is that capital reserve, when it was created, why it was created, from when is it getting carried forward, that details have to be given in the disclosures. If it's a securities premium, we just used to write securities premium. Now we have to write the nature and the description of securities premium. So I think if some of you are signing up, maybe just watch out. The idea is just to give the overview that there are changes to Schedule 3 also, and applicable for 31st March 19. These are the exposure drafts issued by ICI on all the accounting standards. So I think I just copied as it is from the institute website. So you will see AS 25, which is interim financial reporting, will become AS 34. Because IND AS 34 is interim financial reporting. So once this exposure draft, this was open for public comments on May 12, 2019. I think this is just a couple of days back. And public comments are received. If you see ICI website, there are a couple of comments given by some people. And once they are okay with the comments, they'll release an effective standard. Once that effective standard comes, AS 25 will be superseded. So you will not have AS 25 anymore. So I think this is something maybe you will have to watch out, because I remember when I was doing my articleship, my principal always used to tell me, I remember AS 1 to AS 15 because that came up in my term, and after that whatever came you should remember. Now it's the other way around, that AS 1 to AS 15 what we remember also may not be there. Because they are changing the name of AS 10, which is so popular forever, to AS 16. So similarly, I think you will find those changes. AS 17, I think I am also finding it very difficult to digest. It's been 10 years of the profession and 5 years into CA, right? I mean 15 years that I have adopted in my blood all the numbers of AS. If we just speak in AS numbers and paragraph numbers, it's so difficult for me to unlearn AS 10 and learn AS 16. I don't know how many days I will take to unlearn the numbers. It just become part of our talking now. So AS 17 will now become leases. AS 17 is segment reporting. So what will that AS 17 will become? AS 17 will become AS 108. Because IND AS 108 is a segment reporting standard. And you will see AS 11 will become construction contract, AS 18 will become revenue, AS 1 will not be called as disclosure of accounting policies, it will become presentation of financial statement. Even the name and the number they are trying to align with IND AS. So whoever I think hated IND AS now have no option but to start liking it, because AS eventually is becoming IND AS. And therefore this title of the seminar today, that the AS is still relevant. I think we somehow find that IND AS is popular, but now with all changes I am finding more amendments in AS. There are less amendments in IND AS actually. There are 2 amendments in IND AS, there are 5 amendments in AS. Which is I think in a way good actually. So we are just back to our own standards. You will have AS 37 for provisions, which is AS 29 now. You have AS 40 for investment property, it's completely a new standard. AS 19 for employee benefits instead of AS 15, which is the current standard. And AS 109 financial instruments. This was earlier used to be 30, 31, 32, which was first made recommendatory, then got withdrawn. Now reintroduced in the form of new avatar 109. So I think I'm not going to touch upon what are these exposure traps, but all of these exposure traps are to make AS similar to IND AS. So if you have ever I think read differences between AS and IND AS, now we can be happy that only those differences are incorporated back to AS. So, but we have to wait and watch. But if you see, all of these are quite recent. Comments are almost all are in 2019. So maybe March 20 reporting, when I think this 19-20 reporting that we will do, March 20 you might have to watch out all of these new standards. As it is, I think there are quite a few matters that you need to consider for March 19 closure, right? When you are closing 31st March 19 financial statements, do consider all the amendments to the standards that I think which happened to accounting standards. Do consider revised format of audit report. I am sure that that's something which has changed, right? 31st March 2019 audit report will not be same as 31st March 2018 audit report. Because SA 700 is totally revamped, and now the first paragraph is an opinion paragraph, and then the second paragraph is emphasis of opinion, the basis of opinion paragraph, then the key audit matter, then the material uncertainties over going concern, then they have management responsibility, auditor's responsibility, then EOM, then OM, and then the legal requirements. So the format is now no more opinion in the middle, it will start with opinion at the start of the page, which is SA 700. And I'm sure you are aware that there is a key audit matter which is introduced as a new standard, of course applicable only for listed entities or subsidiaries of listed entities, but not really applicable, not compulsory for unlisted entities. But I think maybe something that you might have to watch out for 31st March 2019 sign off. That the audit report is a new format. The Institute has released quite a few publications on the new audit reports. The standard also has got appendix in terms of what should be the format. I think there are many books available, but I think the first time you have to revamp your format. I keep telling my students, whomever I teach CA, right, that don't do Control C and Control V of audit report anymore. Because our article students are very good and known for it. Like they just do Control C, Control V, they do Control F 2018, Control F, Control R 2019. Unfortunately, they have to do little more this time because audit report is no more Control C, Control V. Including auditor's responsibility paragraph is changed. So, but first time I think we have to revamp the report format. And I think the second thing you want to consider for March 19 reporting is a Supreme Court judgment on Provident Fund ruling. It came up on 28 February 2019, as we speak very recently. So this ruling, this was what was the issue? That was Provident Fund was always deduction on basic wages plus dearness allowance plus retention allowance. I think it was prescribed by PF Act. So most companies started bifurcating their employee salary into canteen allowance, conveyance allowance, etc., special allowance, travel allowance, right? I mean, shopping allowance. My neighbor was saying they have a shopping allowance. I was like, amazing, why don't I get it? But it is just part of the salary. They have gold allowance. There are a lot of allowances they kept on dividing into the salary only for the purpose of less reduction of PF. Like if someone's salary is say 15,000, or rather maybe 20,000, if the allowances are to the extent of 10,000, the PF deduction only happened on 10,000. So for many years, there were petitions to Supreme Court that why don't you consider these allowances as part of the basic allowance? This cannot be called as special allowances because it has to fit into the definition of PF contribution. So Supreme Court clarified this and confirmed that unless until an allowance is paid only for a special purpose, which means if you pay this allowance only as one person or maybe you paid it without which, or he produced something new, he produced something additional, all of these allowances, conveyance and retention, your shopping allowance, all of these allowances that you're talking about, car allowance, parking allowance, all of these are necessary for an employee to come to office. This is not something that you're doing extra for him to produce an extra output. Therefore, they said it has to be part of your basic allowance. So now, which means companies which deducted PF on 10,000, where the allowance was like another 10,000, now has to deduct on additional 10,000. But what is the importance of this ruling? From when this additional 10,000 has to be applied? Because I think if an employee is joined in 2008, and if this ruling came up in 2019, technically from the day he has joined to the day Supreme Court notification came up, the deduction only happened on 10,000. That is not deducted on the additional allowances. So Supreme Court judgment was not very clear on the period. But apparently the judgment is very indicating that it has to be retrospective. So you can imagine, which means I think that's one, what many companies are doing. I am not an expert in labor laws, but there are quite a few labor lawyers who are suggesting companies that whatever is the previous allowance that you have, show it as a contingent liability, because you can still argue with the court. The court ruling came up only on 28 February 2019, which means only for the month of March you might want to hit the P&L, but all the past things you show it as a contingent liability. Now, how fast you should go? Can you start from only 1st April 18 or you have to start from the day employee joined? Is a debate. And this is one of the most happening debate in the industry. I think wherever you have PF applicability, you might have to include in the notes to accounts that what is the company actually has done it. Most of these listed companies will have disclosures already, but you want to maybe just relook at the position from your perspective. If what we suggested, okay, as an auditor, is get a legal opinion. Whatever the lawyer says, we will follow, because I am not an expert to judge whether it ought to be applied retrospective or prospective. Apparently, this amendment happened in September 2014 itself. But many people ignored the amendment, and Supreme Court reconfirmed that this is because of an amendment and you are supposed to do it. So there are 3 schools of thought. 1, let's go back from the date of joining. 2, go back from the date of amendment. 3, at least do it from the date of Supreme Court judgment. So I think one area that you need to watch when you are signing off March 19. There are enhanced disclosures in the Board of Directors report. Like if the company has to apply a cost audit, the Board of Directors report has to contain additional disclosures pertaining to the cost audit. Similarly, Board of Directors report also should contain, may not be applicable for most of the clients, but wherever there is a Sexual and Harassment Act is applicable, and whatever is the safety measures companies have taken under that Act, the Board of Directors report has to disclose. I think this is one thing I think you will find in most companies. I think every boardroom that we go, they have the picture on this act now, saying that it is a crime, you are not supposed to behave in a particular way. So all of these are measures taken by companies to, I think, avoid all the kind of, things which adds to this. Now, any measures that you have taken to promote, I think, a healthy environment within the organization, the Board of Directors has to disclose. So there are additional requirements in the Board of Directors report in section 134. You might want to watch out. There is a change in the definition of a holding company, subsidiary company, associate company, because of Companies Amendment Act 2017. Okay, this change happened in May 2018, which means it's applicable for March 19. So say what we used to do earlier, subsidiary company was a company in which another company has more than 50% of total share capital. Was the English under the Companies Act 2013. Now what was total share capital? Total share capital has to include paid up equity capital plus compulsory convertible preference share capital. So let's say, for example, I have a 1 lakh rupee of an equity capital but 10 lakh rupees of compulsory convertible preference share capital. Let's say A owns 1 lakh and B owns 10 lakh. Under the virtue of March 13, I mean the Companies Act 2013, B was a holding company. Because the total share capital for me now is 11 lakhs because I have 1 lakh equity and 10 lakhs CCPS. Because B owns entire 10 lakhs and A only owns 1 lakhs, the OT power, the total share capital, more than 50% actually would have gone to B. And there were many companies consolidated, which means B consolidated this company and A never consolidated because equity was never a criteria. Now with this new amendment in May 2018, they changed this word total share capital to total OT power. So eventually what it means is that a person who owns an equity of more than 50% will become a holding company and not the person who owns a CCPS anymore. So now because of this, March 19, I'm not sure if some of your clients has it, but watch out. March 19, if there was any company which was a holding company on account of a preference share capital, will not be a holding company on March 19. Now question for us, what do we do for March 18? Because March 18 I would have consolidated, March 19 I am no more a holding company, I won't consolidate, but then what do I do for March 18? I think that some of those questions will remain, but now that I am not consolidating, previous year will not come, but you have to disclose in your notes that for the current year you don't have a subsidiary. Neither you disposed of, right? Nor you have sold anything, just because of change in the law, it's no more a subsidiary. I think that's something that we have to watch out. Say with 2 subsection 6, I think this could be common with some clients. If you have earlier, more than 20% of total share capital was considered to be an associate. If A owns 20% of total share capital in B, B was an associate of A. Now for the purpose of the total share capital, again we took equity plus preference. Now this thing has to be total voting power, which means if A owns 20% of equity, only then B becomes an associate. Therefore, what we will find in March 19, many companies March 19, March 18 associate may not continue to be March 19 associate because of the change in the definition of holding and subsidiary companies. Something that you might have to watch out for March 19 closure. And Schedule 3 changes as we discussed. 2 changes. Fixed assets has become PPE. Securities premium reserve has actually only become securities premium has to be considered. I think I'll just take maybe a couple of more minutes. This is recent, any questions so far? I think I just touched upon so far on 2 areas basically. Changes in accounting standards so far. Exposure gaps in accounting standards which are expected to change our existing accounting standards. And I touched upon what are the considerations for March 19 closure. Something that we might have to closely look at is a Supreme Court decision because every company will have employees to whom the PF is applicable, mostly. Because I think less than 15,000 is quite common in many companies. Any questions so far that you want to touch upon on existing accounting standards, changes?
So regarding this ARO on the leasehold improvements, so in case so just to re-emphasize, so we have to consider ARO on the leasehold improvement as well. Even though those assets doesn't belong to us.
Correct, yeah.
So that's a given stand, right?
So now that's so if the leasehold improvements, you would have already capitalized those leasehold improvements. Yeah. If I'm doing like an interiors, I've already capitalized a leasehold improvement. The cost of the ARO will be added back to leasehold improvement. So this is an asset. This is an asset in the form of a leasehold asset, which anyways I'm recording in AS 10 itself. Because how to depreciate a leasehold asset is covered in AS 10 itself. So the cost of removing that leasehold improvements will be added back to leasehold improvements.
And just practically, so if a company is running for like 10 years, 15 years, they have a lease agreement for 3 years, which is renewable. So now it says that when to take the ARO liability.
Yeah.
Because I don't know till when the company will go on.
So what's a practical solution? I think we say is just to go rational. We say generally, this is what we advise clients, though it's not standard given, that the time when you remove these assets, right, like all of these partitions, you scrap it. You sell it at a value. So we tell them if you can prove that the value that you get at the time of scrapping is close to the value that you actually dismantle, then don't create a provision because you have sufficient buffer. So that's one way that people get out of AROs.
Just one thing I want to touch on, that question too, because I was facing this problem with how to divide the trade receivables into the three categories: the good, significantly increase in credit risk, and the credit impact. I think the good is very much clear.
Correct.
So previously we used to have good debtors or doubtful debtors.
6 months and more than 6 months and less than 6 months.
Depending on the company, some companies used to provide for less than 6 months also,
Correct,
based on the
correct,
percentage.
correct.
So now how to bifurcate this doubtful into significantly increase in credit risk and credit impact?
Yeah, so now there is no question of doubtful. Let's say we have 1 lakh total debtors, okay? Out of which, let's say 40,000 is credit impact. Because where we have to apply ECL, because I know that there is an ECL provision required. So, as you rightly said, there is a problem. Now, how do I show this? Because out of 1 lakh, also there is credit impact data. So then, I think what we are doing it is now we are saying total data is 1 lakh. Below we say out of this 1 lakh, credit impact is 40,000, which is not credit impact is 60,000. So I think we are giving the bifurcation of good debtors into what is impact and what is not impact. Because when we do ECL, ECL is done even on good assets. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is like you're doing an ECL. ECL of this 1 lakh comes up to be 20,000. And you say this 20,000 is credit impact because you're not writing a party name here. You're only writing trade receivable. The 80,000 is actually good. So now you will bifurcate your entire debtors into whatever is provided for actually becomes credit impact. Whatever is not provided for becomes good.
And what will come under significantly increases credit risk?
Significant. So when we do under this is more of an IND AS question, right? Under IND AS we have an ECL for 12 months and more than 12 months. This is a 12 months model and lifetime model. If the entity's risk is significant, like for example ILFS security. If somebody had an ILFS security, investment in ILFS, the credit risk is actually significantly decreased. The security has become AAA to D. Now, which means immediately I have to bifurcate this to be an instrument for which the credit risk is significantly decreased. Therefore, I need to vouch it for lifetime. I will not impair it only for the next 1 year, I will impair it for the lifetime. Which is though interest is not due. I have an investment of say 10 lakh, but interest is due which is like 10% for 1 year. I might impair the entire 10 lakh because I know that this amount is never going to come back. So you will find that those are called significant decrease in credit risk, where you are providing for the entire instrument though it is not actually due. It's not become an NPA because if it has to cross an NPA, I will wait for at least 90 days. But if I am saying if the credit risk is totally reduced, don't even wait for 90 days. It's as good as you are never going to get it back. Then that becomes a significant increase in, significant decrease in credit risk. But that's a practical problem, I think. But we have just taken some calls to how to present.
The Supreme Court ruling on the problem.
Sure.
What kind of a discrimination we need to
So,
is it a we need to recalculate like what is not deducted and debited to the on behalf of the employees? So should we recalculate and discuss something?
So what companies have done right now, I'll tell you, the judgment came only on February 2019. So for the 1 month, which is from March, they have provided, because they know that after Supreme Court gives a judgment, they cannot walk away from creating a provision. So for on 1 month salary, for the 1 month they have taken entire allowances and created a provision also in the books. Okay, now historically, we don't know how long to go back. So what companies have done, just given a 2-liners disclosure. If you are able to measure it, if you are a new company which has only got 3 years or 2 years of existence, you can still measure that liability. But if you can't measure it because you've got n number of employees joining, leaving, it's difficult to ascertain, then they just give a contingent liability disclosure that because of the Supreme Court ruling, we might have some liability, however we have not provided for in the books. And as and when the, I think, order or demand comes up, we are going to provide for it. And the amount is not reasonably ascertainable. And that's what most companies have done it. What is the ideal way of doing it? Ideal way of doing it is providing for it. But what labor lawyers are saying is that this is, though it's a Supreme Court judgment, they're saying it can be questioned for retrospective period. It can't be questioned for prospective period, but retrospectively we will still get you with that. So if I have a law opinion, and a lawyer's opinion to say that I will get you win the position, it's a contingent liability. Because you've got 50-50 chances of paying that.
Contingent liability.
Sure.
Contingent liability we have to provide for contract labor also.
Ideally, yes, because as per PF Act, your PF has to be deducted even on contract labor. That has to.
Contract will raise the
Yeah. So this is now an auditor's call because accounting position is not clear. So you have to maybe take a legal position. Whether it's contingent is a legal position. Because if you don't have a lawyer's opinion, that's what our AS 29 also says, that whenever you want any disputed amount to be called as contingent liability, it should be backed by your expert. An expert here is a lawyer. If lawyer says, no, we will win the case, I think the chances of winning are, it looks like 50-50, only when it becomes contingent. If you think, no, I will not even win the case, I have to, you already have existing demand. The VF authorities has already given you a notice that why haven't you charged it. In that case, it's actually a provision. Because you already have a notice from PF authorities. So that's, I think, not a clear position. I have seen all positions by all auditors. But what is mostly done is creating provision for 1 month, showing it as a contingent liability for the previous period. That is what most popularly followed. Yeah. Should it be done for contract labor? Whomever PF Act is applicable, it has to be done.
It's a huge cost.
Yeah, so companies like most of us outsourcing companies who only works on contract labor, they have 400-500 associate employees, but they have 1 lakh contract employees. They have a huge hit. If you see, I mean, some of these big resource companies, not to name it, but you've got Team Leads and a couple of those companies who only works on associate employees. Their financials, if you see, I think you will find a note on Supreme Court judgment that how they've actually computed. Yes, sir.
There is a concept in case of government projects where the grant is given specifically as an upfront fee. So the project values high. As per IND AS, if you look at IND AS, basically you are saying they have to take it as expense. There is no, whatever is the cost should go to PM. But with this given change in fixed asset accounting standards as such, what will be the current perspective of that?
Okay. So AS, if you look at AS 12, whenever the grant is given by the government on a fixed asset, which is a non-monetary asset.
It's a project being given. They are given an upfront fee saying that 3 years is the construction period. So it's an upfront fee given towards the kickstart the calculation.
Ideally, it has to be CWIP. If it is an upfront fee given by the government, where you've got already a cash, but you're yet to start a project. So you receive a bank, you will have bank debit, and what to credit is a question. Then now the point here is that whether it should be called as a grant or not depends on the conditions. If the condition is that it has to start the project, otherwise we will revoke it, then I'll show it as a liability only. It is like as good as advance receipt. But the grant is a free grant, which means which is unlikely most with the government grants, because whenever they give a grant, they give a conditional grant. So until the conditions are fulfilled, I will not be able to recognize as grant. So till then it has to be a liability, and as and when the conditions are seeming to be fulfilled, it should become an asset. Now what kind of an asset that I'll start? I don't have a fixed asset in this case because it's in the process, it will become a CWIP. Yeah. Now what IND AS also, there's a change by the way. Earlier what IND AS requirement was that if the asset is 100 and you got a grant of 50, technically this 15 will sit in your CWIP. Whenever you incur 100, then minus 15, because 80 rupees of cost you have never incurred, right? It's just received by government. You have bank to, I think, a grant received in the form of just a liability. This liability was set up with the asset. 100 rupees of an asset, you will only have 85. So you have 2 methods of grant accounting. Either you show 100 as an asset and show 15 as government grant, depreciate 100, amortize 15, or you show net 85 and depreciate only 85. So under IND AS, this position is agreed now. Earlier they said you have to show 115. There was an amendment in September 2018 for IND AS 20 standard. They were clarified to say that even now you can do either a partial grant approach or you can do full grant approach. But when to recognize grant is based on conditions to be fulfilled. So we can't call it as grant unless the conditions are actually triggered. Then it's as good as a liability, because if that project doesn't start, then you have to return to government. I think I'll be good. Any other questions? Otherwise, I think I'll quickly just touch upon EAC opinions. I don't have many opinions, but I've just taken 2-3 selective opinions. But whenever you're stuck on any new issue, like government grant is one opinion, forfeiture of bank guarantee is an opinion. Whenever you're stuck with some issues, you will find that there will definitely be EAC opinions. So there are 30 volumes of expert advisory council opinions, which means I think technically there are 3,000 opinions. So I don't think so. I think any accounting issue that we will find will be mostly different than this. So most of the times our accounting answers will be there in EAC opinions. The couple of, I think these are some of the opinions that I just picked up from the recent list, last 1 year. Few I just picked up, I think, for just giving a quick clarity of what EAC was suggesting. There was a recent EAC opinion on spare parts. What this company did was, they had a plant and machinery, to which they got a spare part to rehabilitate a plant and machinery, to revive, to make it more better. But they couldn't do it, the plant and machinery was destroyed. Then the spares, they used it for some other existing plant and machinery, not to revive, but just kind of a spares which can be replaceable. I can use for this plant and machinery or the other plant and machinery. It was just like a standby equipment. It could not have gone to a machinery as it is, but it was used as a spare to remove the machinery, fix the machinery, etc. What this guy said was, because we bought this spare parts only for the purpose of rehabilitation, we will capitalize this. EAC said, sorry, this was not used for the machinery. This can be now used for any machinery. To call something as a fixed asset, it has to be used only with that machinery. It can't be like a screwdriver or a standby equipment which can be used for any and every machinery, cannot become a spare part. So this is one clarification. This was another EAC opinion which was interesting. BMTC had provided a free land to a company which actually set up a gas distribution agency in the BMTC land. So when BMTC provided this land to this gas distribution agency, it was provided in the BMTC space itself, like some 600-700 square feet of the land was given. So the government auditors contended that because the land is given by BMTC, it's a government agency, you should recognize government grant. And then the company contended that this is not a government grant. Why is it not a government grant? Because I will not get this asset. This land was given only to facilitate the BMTC buses. You can also give it to outsiders, but intention is only to facilitate the buses. Now if you have it like 2-3 kilometers away from this BMTC, all the buses have to go there for refilling. Therefore, if you have within the premises, it's more of a trading activity. I'm just facilitating my own benefit. So therefore, the EAC, the committee thought if it has to be called as a grant, there has to be a gratuitous act. The government shouldn't get benefit. Okay, I've seen this very often with my clients. Okay, government sometimes is a customer, government sometimes is a shareholder, government sometimes is a government. So wherever government is a customer, you can't recognize that to be a grant. So I've seen this with a couple of my clients where I think they were making, like in our example, they were making a project for government itself and government gave some money. So ideally then we said it was government grant. The project was made for government consumption itself. It was not for the general public and therefore it cannot be called as government grant. And we see many times what we tend to do is if it's from government, we just blindly recognize it to be grant. So now the EAC also differentiated whether government as a customer or whether government as a user or whether government as a shareholder or is a government actually a government. Which is acting like a government to general public, only then it becomes a grant. Some of the common things that we see, right? This EAC opinion was also interesting. Any amortized, so all this preliminary expenses incurred at the time of formation of company has to be expensed. Even increase in authorized share capital has to be expensed. So after we are seeing lot of companies, the minute they increase in authorized share capital, then they issue shares, they call this to be an issue expenses and debit it to securities premium. The section 52 allows the share issue expenses to be debited to securities premium. The increase in authorized capital, you would have paid some ROC fee, that also they debit to securities premium. And this I have seen with many companies. In fact, the EAC clarified this is not a share issue expense. This is not incidental to issuing the shares. This is not incremental to issuing the shares because your increase in authorized capital could be any amount, but the issue could be within that. And without increasing, you couldn't have issued. Itself is not a criteria to call it as direct cost. So they said any authorized capital increased expenses has to be P&L. We should not have securities premium. Some of these are common, I think errors we are finding it, but I think EAC also clarified these positions. If you have any bank guarantee from the vendors, right, from suppliers, and if you revoke or forfeit that guarantee because they did not meet performance or they did not achieve the targets and etc., that should be called as an income. Apparently this was another clarification. Let's say we had a project of 100 rupees. there was a vendor who is doing this project, 50 rupees project is already completed. Now vendor said, I can't do, I'm walking out. Okay, now I have to select another vendor to complete this project. Now with the existing vendor, there's a 10 rupee of EMD that he would have already given. I forfeit the EMD. So what companies used to do, 50 rupees project is already completed, 10 rupees I have revoked or I have forfeited. They used to write this 10 rupees to 50 rupees and show expenses 40. Basically, it was deducted to your cost of the asset. ESC clarified that this is nothing to do with the asset. Asset is 50, the forfeiture of a bank guarantee increases your economic benefits because you're getting a bank and therefore it has to be called as income.
You pay capital receipt.
Which?
You pay capital receipt.
Well, no, so there's nothing called, okay, is it a capital receipt is a question, it's a receipt, there's nothing called capital receipt. Right? We don't have a revenue to be shown as capital. So you will have other income, you will have revenue from operating income, that's it. You don't have revenue from capital and revenue from revenue transactions. So question, which one?
Tax perspective.
From a tax perspective, I am with you, this is capital. From an accounting perspective, should this be shown as income or should this be reduced from your cost was the question. So what many people did, just to avoid taxation, they used to reduce it from the cost. And then be quiet because your overall cost of the project was shown lesser. Ideally, if you see if it's from a taxation point of view, this is an income for 1 year, but if I show the lesser cost, the depreciation benefit goes over the years. So to that extent, I think EAC clarified any forfeiture of a guarantee, bank guarantee, EMD should be treated as income itself. Don't reduce it from the cost of the asset.
If you treat it as income, you have to pay GST?
That maybe, based on GST Act. Yeah. Ideally, I think there is a GST applicability on that. So to avoid all of this, people used to make accounting calls. So EAC clarified that the nature is not a reduction of asset. In fact, I've seen I think we don't have too much time, but I've seen quite a lot of GST structurings in accounting. Apparently, the EAC has picked up some of this. That if people are doing a GST structuring, like just give you a 1 minute example. If I'm a trading company, I trade in agarbattis. If 3 packets of agarbattis are purchased, 1 packet is free. Now that we know on this free product, correct, I don't get a input credit. Ideally, and I have to, on this free product, if you pay GST, maybe you get an input. I am not a GST expert, but if you don't pay, because you are only paying for 3 products, the input credit on the 4th product is not available. So what I have seen companies doing it, and GST experts have suggested them in accounting is, if say 1 packet is 10 rupee, you recognize sale as 40 rupees. Actually, sale is only 30 rupees. But you recognize sale as 40 rupees, say less discount 10 rupees and show it as 30 rupees. So therefore companies have done this. Though they receive 30 rupees, they show sale as 40, they show discount as 10. Basically, they have shown cost twice. Once, I think, when they made the product, second, they showed it in the form of a discount. So I think, these are some accounting structurings, but dangerous if somebody finds out. So there's one client where I found out this and it had a huge GST implication. Because the minute I think we found out and we said you reverse revenue, because it's not even a consideration received. What you receive is only 30 rupees, how can you recognize 40 rupees and show discount as 10 rupees? We said you have to show 30 rupees. Then they started crying, like, if I show, then I have a GST implication. But then how do I sign off? Because that's not a right revenue. So some of the GST structurings we should be a little careful. Couple of guidance notes I think Institute has issued. You might have to watch out whenever I think you're signing up the financial statements that there are many guidance notes issued by ICR, derivative contracts, combined contracts, carve-out entities. So these are all the guidance notes. Wherever there is no accounting standard, there is a guidance note. So ideally, we don't have, I think, any accounting without a literature. So whenever someone tells you that okay, there is no literature, there is a literature beyond accounting standards. We have EAC opinions, we have guidance notes, we have interpretations. I think someone has to dig all of this to figure out what is a right accounting. I think some of these are guidance notes. I quickly touch upon only FRRP observations. Some of these are very, very unfortunate. I am an accounting professional. I struggle to clear chartered accountancy and score in accounting. But very unfortunate that people don't take accounting seriously. I think it's really apparent. Okay, when FRRP has given comments like this, if you read this, it just shows off that the importance in India is given to procedural matters, but not to compliance matters. Now that it's a compliance, it has taken a back seat. Okay? I think I think errors, if you see, they've just not disclosed accounting policy. Companies disclose revenue accounting policy as revenue is recorded on an accrual basis. That is not an accounting policy. That is just a statement. Correct? It has to have what kind of revenue, and revenue from goods, revenue from services, whether it is at point in time, over the period of time, whether it is time and material, whether it is fixed price. I think to that extent, people are not at all spending time on accounting policies. I am surprised, but there are companies where accounting policies are only one page. The whole financial statements will have a policy as only one page because it's taken as a compliance. Apparently FRRP has come out with this. Maybe once they become more serious, we get more seriousness. But right now I think they started taking actions by publishing the, at least the deficiencies. But what US does, okay, to increase the awareness, they publish the deficiency with the company name and auditor's name. And they do that, PCAOB, like all the PCAOB review reports, if you see, they have a deficiency with the name of the company and a name of auditor with a penalty levied to the auditor. And that just creates, and that's exactly why the US is, I mean, if US CPAs get paid much more than the Indian Chartered Accountants for accounting, because our audit fee is 20 to 50,000 for a small company. With 20 to 50, how much can you do? I mean, that's also a reasonable thought. How much do you spend time? But that's not the case with other countries because accounting is taken on front seat there. I mean, the SEC is very clear. I was drafting some SEC comments to some of my clients. They're very meticulous. Like any accounting question, we generally have 2.5 to 3 pages of comments drafted. Okay. Whereas we hardly find comments here because they just give observations, they don't come back with comments. But step by step, I think India is growing. Like now there is what FRRP has come out with this, that if you are a listed company and if we find these kind of deficiencies and if we find any audit qualifications, the SEBI or MCA might ask you to restate your financials and give it to them. Which means basically you're reworking and re-auditing and giving it back to them. So the FRRB can enforce the name of the companies. Like they may say this 10 companies, I want revised financials. So that, I think that's something, one initiative. How many companies they have asked so far? I don't think so any, but they've started this initiative. So they may pick any company and ask you to rectify the mistakes. So that's the thing, something they're doing. But quite a few, some of these are very surprising. A listed company did not have a cash flow. I think these were some errors I think they've seen. Segment reporting is another area most of us go wrong. Okay, we just write no segments in the company. And whereas in the revenue, P&L, there will be revenue from products, revenue from services, revenue from bulldozers, revenue from this, revenue from that. You have detailed revenue in P&L account, whereas you write in segments, no segments. And it's very apparent. Okay, some of these I think, we should not ignore. I think some of this every time is I think constraint, but maybe more training is required for people to not to ignore material points. Like I've seen a client who said no segments, next day newspaper, they had division-wise profitability analysis. So as if you can have division-wise profitability analysis published in a newspaper, why can't you give a segment reporting in financial statement? Because that's all it is. Segment is all about each CGU which makes up a profit. So I think some of these they said were very unfortunate things. Intangibles was classified, R&D was classified as an intangible. Apparently research has to be expensed, only development has to be capitalized. There were companies who said R&D expenditure as an intangible. So you can't have R&D as an intangible, it's only development expenditure which qualifies to be intangible. Research phase has to be expensed. The minute you find research in an intangible word, it has to be expensed. So there were, I think, some of these mistakes. Many mistakes. I just have a few related guarantees. All the bank guarantees given by holding companies, subsidiary companies, directors, KMP has to be shown as a related party. I have seen this in many companies. Doesn't do this. Holding company gives a guarantee to subsidiary. This has to be shown as a related party transaction because any guarantees given also is a related party. And I'll give you one classic example. Okay? There is a holding company which gave a land to subsidiary at 1 rupee in one of our clients. Because it was at 1 rupee, it was never there in the fixed assets because 1 rupee is nominal value. It was there in FAR. For a good number of years we watched FAR, including me. I have seen FAR signed off. What it did not flash to me is that even 1 rupee is a related party transaction. Arm's length, not an answer. It was before Companies Act, maybe grandfather, but I can't ignore the disclosure. So I still have to have a disclosure that land at 1 rupee is given by holding company to subsidiary company. So I think some of these, I think they just picked up. EPS, there was negative basic EPS was not shown on P&L. This is another common thing, right? Because it was loss, your EPS is negative. The company said, how can EPS be negative? So therefore they did not show EPS at all. Even if it's a negative EPS, it has to be shown on the face of P&L. So this report is available, I think, in just Google it or maybe in the institute website. There's an FRRD report. It's a 590 pages report. I just summarized in 2 slides on the main things, but this report has got auditor deficiencies, CARO deficiencies, Schedule 3 non-compliances, audit report non-compliances, accounting standard non-compliances. All of these non-compliances of chartered accountants reports have been summarized in the FRRB. Maybe it's good to just glance through so that the basic things cannot be skipped. Like I think my request is at least accounting policies like revenue, some of the PPE, those policies at least have to be stronger. The others could be basic, but at least the main streams of policies have to be stronger in companies. I think that's all I had to say. I think I'm 5 minutes late, but any other questions? I hope this was useful. The idea was just to give overview of what is changing in accounting standards. So if you have no questions, we are all ready to go home. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Asha. It was very interesting, and I think the audience enjoyed a thorough study on accounting standards and its relevance. Now, I would like to ask Panindra, the managing committee member, to give a token of gratitude. Please give a great round of applause to the fantastic presentation. Thank you very much. We are closing today's session. Good night.